Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It's that time of week once again, the time of weeks that makes me smile. Not only because it's Friday, but because it's also Masterclass Friday. So I want to thank you for joining in live. For those of you who are here right now at the moment, I see a bunch of you already in the chat as I'm getting the last minute things up and going here. And I also want to give a shout out for those of you who are watching the replay. So if you're watching the replay, I love replay numbers, so they always make me happy. So with that, thanks for watching the replay. Let me just get a couple more things going here, and then we will make sure that we are up and ready to go on all platforms that we need to be on. Let me just copy this real quick and paste it in. For some reason, it did not work. So let me turn that off, paste this back in, and then we'll be up and ready to go. All right. Command V, paste. Got it. So, for those of you who are new, welcome to Adobe Live. Welcome to our Masterclass Friday. For those of you who haven't seen this before, this is the opportunity that all the Adobe evangelists get to they get to share their discipline. They get to share the thing that they concentrate on and focus on the most for an hour each Friday. And you get to see Photoshop, graphic design, photography, which is mine, video and editing, UI, UX design, and digital painting as well. So you get the whole day of masterclass content, as well as sprinkled in creative challenges or daily creative challenges, like the one that's coming up right after mine. So with that said, I just want to make sure I'm live everywhere, and it looks like I am. So we can go ahead and get to the task at hand, which is little known things in Lightroom. So today I'm going to be covering, this is the week before Adobe Max. So it's like I'm chomping at the bit to show you new things, but I can't until the next masterclass. But in the meantime, I can show you just a lot of little things that people may have missed over the years in Lightroom. And therefore, we're going to just spend our day on that today. And then when I come back after Max, I got a lot of cool things to show you. So stay tuned. All right. For those of you who are new, like I said, if you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching this, that's great. But if you want to participate in the chat, if you want to ask questions, head over to b.net/Adobe Live. That's the one chat that I'll be looking at. I'll be concentrating on. I may glance at the other ones, but that's the one that I will most likely see your question on. If I can see it at all, that's where it'll be. So if you don't care about asking questions, you don't care about commenting, you can hang out right where you are watching. But if you do want to participate in that chat, just head over to b.net/Adobe Live with your Adobe ID in hand. Log in, and you can even log in with social media accounts, so you don't have to pay anything to do this. You just log in and ask away. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and jump to today's topic. So we're gonna switch over to the computer. Now, I'm in the catalog I was in last week. So this is the one where I was showing, these are not my photos. These are photos from you guys. You guys submitted these photos for me to edit and show you how I would edit them. And that was last week's class. Today, we're going to just use this catalog. Like, in other words, I'm not going to do a ton of editing, but I'm going to show you tips and tricks with this particular catalog because my main catalog is being used for something else right now. Something that's maybe for next week. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to it. All right. Here, let me bring up my list of tips so I don't forget any. And let's start at the very top. So starting, and this is in no particular order, these are just random things that you may or may not have gotten over the years in Lightroom. So I guarantee there's probably a few tips you're going to know. If you've been using Lightroom for a while, you're going to say, oh yeah, I knew that one. And I can pretty much guarantee I'm going to show you some things you haven't known or didn't know or you never saw, because some of them were even new to me. Like I was like, wow, I didn't know that one existed. So with that said, let's go on. So first and foremost, I'll be doing this in Lightroom Classic mostly, but I'll also pop over to the Lightroom. Some people refer to it as the cloud version as well. We'll do some tips there. But let's start off in Classic. where we have these modules. So Lightroom Classic for years and years and years has had a library, develop, map, book, slideshow, print, and web module. And honestly, most of you are probably not using all of them. You may be using library, develop, and book, and maybe print, or you might be using map, or you know, in other words, you're not using, most likely you're not using every single one, especially the web module, because not a lot has changed in that module over the years. So unless you had an existing workflow that used web, I'm going to guess you're probably not using web a lot these days. So you can right click anywhere on this bar and you'll see all the modules checked off. And if there's one that you don't use, like you never go to it, then there's no reason having it take up space in your application or in your view, I should say. So if I turn off web, guess what? It's gone. If I don't ever use map, which I like map, but I can turn it off and it's gone. So that will simplify the Lightroom interface to just the things that you use. So that way, and if you ever say, oh, well, you know, I saw this cool tip about maps, let me go ahead and turn map back on. And you can always go back to it and turn on the ones that you want to get back to. So that's tip number one, is that you can customize the modules, and the module doesn't get removed from the application. It's still there, but you won't run into it. You won't accidentally be clicking on it. It won't take up space here, and it will be gone. All right, tip number two. And I'm not going to number these because they're not numbered. So I'm going to get past 5 or 10 and forget which number I'm on. So this is one that may not be as obvious, but you see these little triangles on all 4 sides of the screen. There's one here, there's one over here on the right-hand side, there's one here at the very bottom, and there's one here on the left-hand side. These little triangles are for collapsing that particular part of the screen. So if you don't need the left side panel, for example, and you're working on something, and you want more space for your image, then you can collapse that panel. So, and it really makes a difference when you are working like in loop view. So I want to see that bigger. I can collapse that panel, collapse maybe that panel, collapse the film strip, and that way I get to work on my image in a bigger view. And now, even though you collapsed it, you don't have to uncollapse it just to get to it. If you just hover over where it used to be, it will pop out long enough for you to use it. And then once you move away, it'll go away. So you can actually have these panels temporarily on or off as needed, as opposed to always being on and always taking up space. So if I need the film strip, I go down there and the film strip's there. Of course, in my docs there as well. But I go down there, the film strip's there, and when I go away from it, the film strip goes away. So that's one way to do it. Another way, I don't do it that way. I just never got in the habit of hiding them temporarily, or like, you know, having them pop out like that. What I do instead is usually I need the space on the left and right side. So hitting the tab key automatically hides the left and right panel. Now they're not collapsed, they're just hidden. So hitting the tab key turns them on and off. And that way I can just get rid of them when I need to and work on an image without having to worry about those panels being visible left and right. Okay, next up, customizing the tool panel. So there's a tool panel down here at the very bottom. And this is a fairly new catalog I created for how I would edit your photos. And so therefore it's not showing all the tools. If I go back to grid, there we go. It's showing most of them, but not all of them. And you can go over here on the right-hand side. There's an arrow over here on the right that lets you select your toolbar content. So when you go to that, you'll see the ones checked off that you have selected, and you can uncheck the ones you never use. So if you never use the painter, you can uncheck it. If you use the painter, you can have it checked. And if you use other ones that all the time, like navigate, you might use navigate. I just use the left and arrow keys on the keyboard, so I don't need those keys here. But that will let you navigate from photo to photo using those buttons on screen. So like, for example, that would be one I'd have turned off. Then there's the slideshow, which is just the play button. That's an impromptu slideshow. And you can have these turned on and turned off as needed. So for example, I would customize mine. I don't need the impromptu slideshow. I don't need the navigate buttons. I don't even need the rotate buttons, as rarely I'm bringing in photos that I need to rotate. The rest I kind of like. All right, now, while we're here, and this wasn't one that I was planning, but people always ask this, or no, they're always amazed when I show this. Oh, I never knew that was there. The painter, this little paint can, people don't really get what it's for. When you click the paint can, first and foremost, it picks it up as a tool. But before you use it as a tool, down here in the bottom, it lets you choose what it's going to do. So right now it's set to rotation, but you could use it for keywords, labeling, flagging, rating, metadata that you want to apply to different photos, settings you want to apply to different photos, and adding them to the target collection. So for example, let's say rotation is the most visible one, so I'll leave it on rotation. And then you can set your rotation to left, right, horizontal, flip it. Let's do a flip horizontal will be kind of cute. All right, so let's do that. So now what that will do is it lets you quickly and decisively decide which photos need to be flipped without having to click on each one and flip it manually. So as I spray across these photos, they flip over. If I click that one, it flips. If I click that one, it flips. If I click that one, it flips. Or if I drag it across these photos, they flip. So imagine I want to paint keywords to specific photos in a grid. I can just drag across the ones that need those keywords, and boom, they all have those keywords. Or I can drag across all the ones I want to be 5-star ratings. Quickly, they're 5 stars. Drag across all the ones that I want to have a particular edit. They all have that particular edit. So the paint can is great for that. I'm looking at a grid and I want to quickly do the spray can or paint can across multiple photos. All right, so again, and all of this is undoable, so I can undo all those flips back to the way it was. But that's just a quick thing about the tool panel, and once you're done with the spray or paint can, just put it back where you got it, and that will put it back where you got it. All right, next up, this is one that I often use now because it's available to me. When you bring your images into Lightroom, they're going to come in to a folder, whether it's an existing folder or one you created when you do your import. So here are all the folders from the various times I did how I would edit your photos. I've just brought them in as different folders from Dropbox that you guys submitted them from. However, if I want to quickly make a collection out of a set of those photos, like the ones from last week, which was the 15th. 36 photos in this folder. Here are all the ones from last week. If I want to make that a collection, I don't have to select off 36, click Create Collection, name the collection, yes, use those photos, and they all come in. I can just simply drag that folder down into the collection area, and I don't want to put it in there, but let me close that. Let's put it down here. There we go. And it will make a collection named the same way as the folder with those 36 photos in it. So now with those 36 photos in it, it's a collection. So I can say, well, that's a duplicate. I don't need that duplicate. I can remove it. And it's not removing it from the folder. It's removing it just from the collection. So that way you can easily and quickly make a collection from a folder just by dragging it down into the collection area. All right, next up. Let's use something that it goes back to Lightroom pretty much early days. It was called Quick Collection. Now, Quick Collection is set up by default when you make a new catalog. So there it is. It's a collection called Quick Collection. And I don't even know what's in it. Okay, that shot's in it for some reason. But anyway, when you are, let me look at all photographs. When you're looking at these photos and you say, hey, I want to send a group of photos to my friend. I want to print these photos. I want to temporarily make a slideshow of these photos. In other words, I don't need a permanent collection. I just need to put together a group of photos from different folders, different collections, different whatever, to do something with, and then I'm done. Like I don't need to use them anymore in that order or in that grouping, I should say. So, for example, I can grab this one, and if I want that to be in the quick collection, all I have to do now is hit the letter B as in Bravo. So when I hit B, it adds it to the quick collection. So now there are 2 photos in it. So that way I can click B, In other words, I'm saying I'm just scrolling through and finding photos that I want to be in that quick collection, and they're going in there as soon as I hit the letter B. So maybe it's the edits that I did, over all of these weeks of doing these, how I would edit your photos. I can add those to the quick collection. And once they're there, it acts like any other collection. So like, for example, this one that I put in here earlier at some point, hit the letter B, it takes it out of the collection. So the quick collection was always designed for that. In other words, it was designed for just making a quick, not necessarily temporary, because it's not going to go away, but a collection that doesn't need to be permanent. I just want to make these a quick collection, and now I can export these out, print these out, do a slideshow of these, whatever it is I want to do, because they're in a quick collection. Now, that's, like I said, been around for years. What the team did in the not too distant past is they took that feature of hitting the letter B to put it in a quick collection, and they added it to any collection. So in other words, if I just want to make a new collection, let's make a new collection, create collection, and we'll call it Adobe Live Favorites. And we're not going to include any photos. Don't make any photos. You see there's a button that says Set as Target Collection. That's what that letter B means. But let's say you didn't do this when you created it. I didn't do it when I created it. I forgot to do it. So now there's an empty collection called Adobe Live Favorites right here. It has 0 photos in it. And I want to turn that into the target collection. In other words, where I can just hit the letter B and any photo I want goes into that. Well, if you right click, you can say Set as Target Collection for any of your collections, any of the ones you already have. And it will put that little plus sign on it, because there can only be one target collection at a time. And when you see that plus sign on a collection, you know that that's the target collection. So it's no longer on the quick collection. The plus sign's gone, because now we have the target collection for Adobe Favorites. So if I go to my done editing, and I want to pick some of my favorites over all these times I've done this with you guys, I would say that one. I hit the letter B. It goes in there. I would say that one, letter B, it goes in there. I would say, and I'm just randomly doing this, guys, so don't feel offended if I don't pick yours. B, that one goes in there. This one is done. That one goes in there. This one goes in there. So there we go. I'm just randomly picking photos. Ooh, that was the sky replacement with the motocross shot. That one goes in there. That one. So you get the idea. I'm not going to go through all these. All right. So anyway, now those 6 photos are in the quick collection. They always have this little circle on them letting you know that they were added that way. And if you do another another collection as the target collection, the plus sign goes away. So let's make this one the target collection now. The plus sign goes away from the other one, and the circles are still there because that's how they were added, but they are in this collection until you remove them. So it doesn't ever take them out of a collection, even if you make a new collection, the target collection. So target collections are just a quick way to get photos into a collection without having to always drag them in one by one or as a group. All right, next up. Apparently you can use the spray can for this too, I just learned. All right, great. All right, somebody's talking about spray can in the chat, and you memorize B as bring to quick collection. That's a good way to do it. And now let's go on, move off the quick collection stuff, and let's go in and talk about this one, because this question comes up all the time, especially when people have multiple catalogs, and we talk about how you should, unless you have a really good use case for having multiple catalogs. I'm a one catalog person. Like I have one main catalog for my work, and I don't ever think about having one for Adobe and one for personal and one for travel and one. I used to do that, but I don't anymore. So the question then becomes, well, if you do have multiple catalogs and you want to get them all into one, how do you do it? Well, under the file menu, there is an import from another catalog. So you basically open the one that you want to be the main catalog or create a new one. that you want to be the main catalog. And then once you're in that catalog, you would use this command to point to all the other catalogs that you want to bring over into this catalog. It will give you the option of choosing which collections, which images, all of them, whatever, and they will all come over with their edits, their ratings, their keywords, everything you've done, and you will have all those images organized the way they were in individual collections or catalogs into your new catalog. So just note that if you want to combine or consolidate catalogs, there's a way to do it right in Lightroom. Just import from another catalog. Once you're in the catalog, you want to import them into. All right, next up. And that gets back to the other thing. Well, you mentioned that if I had a use case, I might want to create a new catalog. My use case for creating this catalog was that I didn't want everyone's work that's not mine. In other words, these photos are not mine. I didn't want them in my catalog. I didn't want them in my main catalog that is my work, my photography. I wanted the separate catalog just for this class to be able to show you how I would edit your photos because these aren't mine. So how do you create a new catalog? File, new catalog, and that will let you create a new catalog, save it where you want it, name it, and import, and it will have nothing to do with your main catalog. Now, I do want to note that you can have as many catalogs as you want, but one of the other reasons I prefer one catalog for everything that I do is because you can only sync one catalog at a time to the cloud. So if I start syncing this catalog, my other catalog will become unsynced. And I will lose all those photos that were synced in that catalog to the cloud will no longer be in the cloud, and only the ones I sync in this catalog will be in the cloud. And vice versa. If I go back to that one and turn it back on, then these will go away from the cloud and those will go, the new ones, the old ones will go back in. So just note that with you can have multiple catalogs, many as you want, but only one at a time can be synced. And also only one at a time can be open. So those are all the kinds of reasons why I prefer just working with one catalog. All right, I suppose you can't do this. Suppose you can't do what in Lightroom versus Lightroom Catalog? Multiple catalogs? Yes, that's only Lightroom Classic. If it was something else, then let me know. Yeah, because Lightroom versus Lightroom Classic. So what he's asking is, I think he's asking is, can I have multiple catalogs in this version? No, because this is just one. It's not even a catalog. It's just one collection of your photos that are synced and backed up to the cloud. You don't get the option to have multiple catalogs here because there are no catalogs. All right, back to Classic. All right, here we go. We did that. All right, so let's go into this one. This is a fairly new feature. Let me go into this photo, and let's say I want to zoom into this flower on his, I don't know, flower in the bouquet. I was going to say the flower on his lapel, but that might be in the bouquet. I can't tell. Actually, that's probably on his lapel. Anyway, I want to zoom into that flower. Now, before in Lightroom and Lightroom Classic, if you clicked, it went from fit in window to 1-to-1 to 1-to-2, so forth and so on, and you had to scroll around to get to where you want it. Now the zooming has become more like Photoshop and other applications, but you have to hold down a key to get to it. On Mac, hold down your Command key, Windows, hold down your Control key, and then you can drag a selection around what you want to zoom in, and it zooms in as big as it needs to. Now, this also gives me a chance maybe to show something here. Let me go to my develop module, and let me go to my lens correction. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it did make it better. I never really get a chance to show remove chromatic aberration, and I just happened to notice it on this photo when I zoomed in this flower. See this flower? See how this flower has like a purple halo around it? The minute I see a color around the edge like that, especially on a raw file, which this is, maybe it isn't, I don't know, maybe this isn't a raw file. But anyway, whatever file this is, when I see that kind of purple or any kind of color around the edge, that's what chromatic aberration looks like when you have that problem. So Lightroom has a remove chromatic aberration in the lens corrections. So when you turn that on, it gets rid of that halo. So then the question becomes, well, should I just turn it on all the time? it's kind of one of those things, putting a Band-Aid over your arm and there's no cut. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to help anything. It's like, if there isn't a problem, it's not going to help you or hurt you by turning it on. But if you have the problem, it will turn it on. It will solve it. All right, so that was, I got a chance to use chromatic aberration in a class. All right, there we go. Next up, here's one that is a classic specific feature, and that is assigning color labels. So in all versions of Lightroom, you have flags and you have star ratings. But in Lightroom Classic and Adobe Bridge, you have this third option for identifying photos, and that is color labels. I like using all three. So let me give you my method. If it's a client photo that they pick that they want me to retouch and they want to pay for and all that from the shoot, then I mark that. And this, again, this is not the way you have to do it. This is just my method. Let's say they like this wedding shot and this is the one they wanted. So then I say, well, the customer chose that. That's a pick. I hit the letter P. It marks it as a pick. And I know all my picks are the ones that the customer picked. But if it's one that I like, just me, it's for my portfolio, it's for me to print, it's for whatever, then I would pick a color label. I pick 8 for green, and it puts a green outline around it. So when I search for all the green photos, I know those are my picks. I know those are the ones I liked. If the person is standing there next to me while I'm reviewing the photos before they go home, and they call out one, they say, oh my God, I really love this photo. You notice that these have blue color labels. And I just designated blue as the customer's pick. Not pick, but like they like. Because pick is the ultimate one they chose. Blue is the one they kind of liked in the moment. They may not choose it. So if I kind of like, I'm looking to suggest photos for them, I would start with the ones that were blue because those are the ones they liked in the moment. Then what are the other colors for? I don't know. I use yellow for someone else on a team liked it. Maybe it's the makeup artist, the hairstylist, the wardrobe consultant, whatever it is. If they like the photo, then I use yellow just to say that, okay, it wasn't a green, wasn't mine, wasn't a blue, wasn't theirs, it wasn't the client's, it's yellow, it's someone on the team that was working with me that liked it. So those are the kinds of things I do with color labels. And of course, well, then what are star ratings? Star ratings would be out of these 3 photos that, let me do it this way. Out of my 3 photos, let's say I like this one, I like this one, and I'm just randomly picking photos, and I like this one. Okay, out of those 3 photos that have a green label, which ones are my absolute favorites? Because I like them all, but which one is the one? The one with 5 stars. So I hit the number 5 on, like, it's green and a 5-star. Like, I'm always going to love that photo. Like, that photo is my absolute favorite. That's the one I would like. If I had to pick one to print, that would be the one. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't make that a 4-star. And I won't make that a 4-star. If I'm down to 3 stars, then it starts to become, why am I picking it? So I don't do 1, 2, or 3 stars. I either love it or I like it. If it's just okay, then I don't need a rating for it because it's just okay. It just won't have anything on it. So the just okays don't require my time to pick a number or pick a color or anything. Okay, so those are assigning stars, assigning color labels. And by the way, here's a tip for when you're doing that kind of work. So let's say we go start with a dog picture here and we go loop view. And I pick 5 stars, okay? Now, I've done it. I picked 5 stars on that photo. I want to now go to the next photo. Well, then I have to hit the arrow key. So let's go back and let's hit 0 to get out of stars. And now let's go in and put the caps lock key down. So the caps lock key is on. It doesn't change anything in Lightroom. But now when I hit the number 5, it automatically advances to the next photo. If I hit a pick flag, it automatically advances to the next photo. If I hit whatever, it automatically advances to the next photo. So if you want to more quickly get through your selections, put the caps lock key down, and then when you do whatever, pick reject, flag, whatever, it will automatically jump to the next photo because it assumes you did whatever it is you want to do. Now, the only thing that doesn't work on is when you want to do two things. I want to give it a color label and 5 stars. Well, then the minute you give it one or the other, it's already on to the next photo. So it is what it is for people that want to do one thing, picks, rejects, and I use it specifically when I'm doing rejects. Like I'm going to the next photo, and maybe I mark that as a reject because it's kind of trippy, but it's actually fine. And then I hit X and it just goes to the next photo. So I'm either arrow key or X, arrow key or X. Because if it doesn't need anything, arrow key. If it needs something like a pick, then it's going to go to the next photo. That one already had it. So that way I get, oh, caps lock key is not down anymore. That's why. So let's unflag it. There we go. Yep, and then it goes away. All right, pick flag, on to the next photo. So caps lock key is great for when you want to quickly advance. Next up, here's one that, this is kind of one of those ones I just didn't know about. I didn't know about till very recently. You have these fields over here where you can type, like caption. And maybe I'm describing this photo. So a beautiful day in the woods. And I see what I did there. I did a typo on woods, right? So if I leave that, anyone reading it would know what I meant. But if I'm searching for woods, that photo would never come up because I'm going to type woods correctly with 2 O's in the search, and this photo would not come up. So, spell check. If you do Command or PC Control semicolon, it does a spell check. It will bring up spell check in Lightroom and let you correct it and do it the right way. So Lightroom does have a built-in spell check, believe it or not, and it's Command semicolon or PC Control semicolon. All right, next up, here's one that's kind of just this is more like a hack. Let's go in. All right, I'm going to go up to the top here. Actually, I'm going to go back to my my last week's photos. There we go. Here are the last week's photos. And I got these portraits here from the wedding. And I scroll down, and I scroll down, and I scroll down. And let's say that, I thought I had another one down there. All right, let's do this. Let's fake it for a minute. Let's say that you had a photo. Hang on, undo, undo, undo. Let's put it back. Go back. I'm just trying to create the example here. And I'm failing creating the example. Okay. You got a photo and you decide, there it is. There's the one I was looking for. There's one that needs to be up there with the other ones. Like, here's the wedding photo. This should be up here with the other wedding photos, right? But it's way, way down here at the bottom. It's hundreds of photos down at the bottom. Now, we know I could click on it and drag, 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 hundreds of photos until I get it back up to where it needs to be. And if you ever tried to rearrange photos manually and you got more than a few, more than will fit in the view, it's a lot of scrolling. Here's a hack that lets you do it in one click or one minor drag. So first of all, select the photo where it needs to be next to. Like, it needs to be next to this. Scroll down, find the photo that needs to be moved up. Hold down your Command key or PC Control key and click on it. That will select both photos. So now both photos are selected, right? The one that's way down at the bottom and the one that's where you want to be. And it could be vice versa. It could be one at the top that needs to be way down at the bottom. Doesn't matter which one's which. You got both of them selected. Now that you got them both selected, you can quickly scroll back up to the top to where the photos are, and you click right in the middle and you start dragging just a little bit. You don't even have to drag a lot. And when you drag a little bit, it brings that photo up to there, up next to it, because it thinks you're going to move them both at the same time. So here, I'll show you on a different one. Let's click this boat shot, and let's Command click this shot of the family down here at the bottom. So now they're both selected. If I just drag this one a little bit and let go, it moves the family shot up right next to it. So it's just, again, just a little hack, a little stupid thing in Lightroom that it assumes you're going to move both pictures, so it needs to move them together, even though you really didn't move it. You just moved it a little like you were going to reposition it, but you didn't. You let go, and it moves it right next to it. So that's a great way to not have to do so much dragging when you're trying to rearrange. All right, next up. Okay, here's one that is not going to make a lot of sense because these aren't my photos. But let's say, just pretending, that this was my photo of the dog, or I think that's a dog, right? Yep, that's a dog. All right, so let's say that this is a picture of a dog here that's mine. It's not, but let's say it was. Notice the copyright status is unknown. Notice that if I go to, there we go. If I go up here to preset, there's a bunch of names. One of those names is Terry White Copyright. And if I highlight Terry White Copyright and let go, it changes the copyright to copyright it, puts my name in it, puts my creator in it, and it will put my website and everything else in the metadata of this photo. And basically what the tip is that you can do this upon import if you've set up a copyright template. Now I'm going to undo this because this is not my photo, but if it were, you can go into Edit Presets. You can key in all the information you want and save it. So I'll go to mine. So here's one, TWATL. So copyrighted, my website, my location, I could put in a phone number, I could put in whatever I needed to put in, and it will put in all that information into the metadata every time I bring in photos. So, and you can also after the fact, so I can select all of these photos and apply my copyright preset to it. So that way, when you export your photos out, put them on the web, put them in your online galleries and all that, your copyright information and your contact information, which is more important, goes with the photo. Now, this doesn't apply to social media. So if you post a photo on Facebook, Facebook strips all that stuff out of the photo anyway. But for regular websites, it keeps that stuff in there. All right, next up. One more quick thing here is, like, I have dozens, I don't think I have hundreds yet, but I definitely have dozens and dozens of collections. And I have collections in collection sets. So for example, in my smart collections here, I've got all of these smart collections that were created by default when I created this catalog. So if I were to be looking for a collection, I don't remember where it is. I don't remember which collection set it's in. I don't remember, like, I just know kind of the name of it. So I can go up to the search right above collections and type in the word that I'm looking for, like red, and it will show me any collections that have the word red in them. And that way I can quickly get to that collection without knowing necessarily where it's buried in all my collections. Or maybe it's not buried, it's just scrolled way down to the bottom because it's in, you know, alphabetical order or whatever. I can just type the name in, get right to that collection, click on it, and see the photos in that collection, which there are none right now. But anyway, that's a way to get to collections and find things quickly. So you can search collections. You can also search folders. Folders, you're going to have definitely tons of folders. So you could find a particular folder you're looking for just with the search. All right, next up. This is one that's near and dear to my heart, and it's take advantage of virtual copies. So I have, let's pick this one. I have this photo, and I want to show my client various edits of this photo. So I can do this with one of two features. I can either do it with snapshots, and snapshots are freezing a edit in time and giving it a name or a date and time, or whatever, and always being able to click back on it and get back to that edit. If you only care about doing that, just you're going to go back and forth between multiple edits, snapshots are great. But when I need to see multiple icons, multiple thumbnails of the different edits and export them all at once, that's where virtual copies comes in. And unfortunately, virtual copy is an exclusive feature of Lightroom Classic. Like Lightroom doesn't have it, Lightroom on mobile doesn't have it, Lightroom web doesn't have it, and like it's only in Lightroom Classic. And I can't wait to, hopefully one day they'll bring this feature over to all the other versions of Lightroom. But here's how it works. So I've got the main photo here and I create a virtual copy. So photo, create virtual copy. And you can always tell the virtual copy from the original because the virtual copy will have the little dog ear, the little page turned up in the lower left corner. So now I can do whatever I want to the virtual copy. So here's another tip. I want to create a quick black and white. That's the letter V as in Victor. That will make a black and white of that photo. Doesn't affect the original, doesn't affect anything else. It's just that particular photo now has the black and white. Virtual copies don't take up any extra space in your hard drive. They only exist in the catalog until you export them out. So now if I select both those photos, they'll get a color one, they'll get a black and white one, JPEG, TIFF, whatever you export out, they'll get both those photos. Now that you can make as many virtual copies as you want. So for example, I can go in and say that I want another virtual copy. I'm using the keyboard shortcut, Command quote, and that gives me another virtual copy. And that one I want to do as a tight crop. So we go into crop. And by the way, here's another tip while we're in crop, because we're going to show this later anyway. Right click, actually no, not right click, sorry. Letter O to switch between the various overlays for crop. So just hitting the letter O on the keyboard is taking me through all these different methods of overlays. So whatever overlay you prefer, I prefer rule of thirds, which is this one. But if you want that one, if you want this one, you want whatever method you want, just hit the letter O to switch between them. All right, so now I can get a tighter crop. All right, and that becomes that virtual copy. So now I've got this original, that virtual copy, and I can have 100 virtual copies, 1,000 virtual copies, whatever, how many ever different versions of the photo I need, I can have as many virtual copies as I want. Can you turn a snapshot into a virtual copy or vice versa? Well, I mean, it would just be you click the snapshot and make a virtual copy, and it would be a copy of the photo, a virtual copy of the photo at that time. So yes. Can I make it a snapshot? Sure. Yeah. So the answer to your question, Jan, is yes. The choices are not listed in my Lightroom Classic. The choices are not listed in my Lightroom Classic version. You got to be specific with these questions because I've done maybe 3 or 4 tips by the time I see your question, so I have no idea which choices you're referring to. So give me the whole thing. All right, and I'll be happy to answer which choices you're referring to. All right, next up, let's go into this is one that is definitely not known, not hidden. I mean, not known because it's kind of, you don't think about it. Like these folders represent all the photos that were in them at the time they were imported. So for example, if I go to the folder from last week, right click on it and say, show me this folder in the operating system. Show it to me in the Finder in this case. So here's the folder. There it is. It's got, here, let me open it up in a new tab. There we go. It's got the 33 items in it. Now it's got more than that in terms of, never mind. It's got the 33 items in it. Now, let's say some more images get added to the folder outside of Lightroom. So let's go into one of these folders. Actually, that won't work because these are already in Lightroom. Let's do it this way. See if I've got anything in these. None of those are in there. So let me just go grab a different photo. Let's go get something out of my demos. All right, let's put this photo in there. All right, so I'm gonna add a photo to the folder. In other words, I've now added 1, 10, 1,000 photos in the folder, and Lightroom doesn't know about them because I added them after the fact. So this folder now has 34 items, and when I come back here, it says 36 because there are some virtual copies and things. But anyway, it says that there are more, but it's still not the right number. It's like we know there's an extra photo we just added to that folder. How do I get it? If you right click on it in Lightroom, the folder, not the collection, and there will be an option that's called Synchronize Folder. What this is designed to do is go back out and look at the folder and say, has there anything been added? So if I say Synchronize Folder, there it says, import one new photo, because it knows, hey, I just looked at the folder. There's one photo that's not in here yet. Do you want to bring it in? And you can even show the import dialog box first before it brings it in so you can see, do you want to bring that one in or not? And I can say, oh yeah, bring that one in. That's the one I need. Import, and then that one will be added to that folder, which is right here, that's now in that folder we just brought it in. So synchronized folders is great for updating Lightroom with images you've added to a folder after it's been brought into Lightroom. All right, let me see if that question came back up. All right, people are going over the various people are going over the various overlays. Shari says, I failed geometry, not for me. Can you add a photo in Lightroom to Lightroom Classic? Can you add a photo in Lightroom to Lightroom Classic? Yes. There's various ways to do it. So the question is, can I add a photo? Let's say I head over to Lightroom and I want to add this photo to Lightroom Classic. Well, if it's just one photo, I could export it out of Lightroom and add it back into Lightroom Classic. So that'd probably be the fastest, easiest way for one photo. But because all your images are synced automatically if they're in Lightroom, if you just turn on syncing, I'm not going to do it for this catalog, but if you turn on syncing, those photos will automatically come into Lightroom Classic, because Lightroom Classic is going to look at the cloud and say, hey, there's 50 photos that aren't in me, or aren't in this catalog. I'm going to bring them down from Lightroom and put them in. But if it's just a one-off, just export it and re-import it back into Lightroom Classic. All right, next up. So I don't have a setup to show you this, but I've shown you this multiple times on masterclasses, but a lot of people that are new don't know you can do this. I've had people say, how's he doing that? How's he bringing that in? If I'm in studio doing a masterclass and I'm shooting, 9 times out of, or 100% of the time, I'm shooting directly into Lightroom. This is called tethered capture. So when you start tethered capture, it's going to ask you to name, this is basically, session name is really the name of the folder it's going to create. Then you can choose how your images will be named. You can add them to a collection as they come in. You can use your keyboard, your copyright metadata template, and you can even add any keywords. Once you click OK, it's going to bring up a bar, or actually not a bar, it's going to bring up a panel, and it's waiting for you to plug your camera in and turn it on. Now, I don't have my camera here, I don't have it connected, but it's a USB cable, preferably a long one, connected to the USB port on your camera and your computer. And once Lightroom detects the camera, then it'll bring up another bar that lets you see all the settings on your camera, and you can actually even press the shutter right on the bar to capture images. As those images come in, they come in right into Lightroom Classic, and they allow you to shoot directly in and go full screen and see them as you're shooting. So take advantage of tethered capture if your camera is supported and you're working in a studio setting. And the real reason behind it is, number one, you're bringing the images in as you shoot them. Number two, you're not looking at them on a little LCD screen on the back of your camera. You're looking at them nice and big on your big monitor. All right. Let's see. And one more tip to that, if you, while you're shooting tethered, let's go back here. While you're shooting tethered, like you used to bring them in as loop view, which is the letter E, and you will see the tether bar and all that stuff. But now I prefer to go full screen, hit the letter F. And that way, when they come in one by one, you're seeing them nice and big with nothing in the way, no tether bar, nothing in the way. Full screen turns off everything else, and you just see each image as you take it come in full screen. So that way you can check focus, see if you got the right shot that you wanted, so forth and so on. All right, next up, if you do have the option to plug in another monitor, you can set up what's called a second display. So under your window menu, you can choose secondary display and how the images will look on that secondary display. So I usually keep my laptop in grid view, like we're looking at now. We see all the thumbnails. And I have my second big monitor in loop view normal. And what that will do is give me this. It will give me this, let's see if I can. No, it's not gonna let me do it. Hang on. It was gonna let me. I was gonna try and get it into a window, but it may not let me. Dun, 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 dun. It may not let me. There we go. This would be on your other monitor, and it would be loop view, so you would see the shot you just took nice and big on the big monitor, but you still see the grid for everything else. So I'm dragging this over to the other monitor as we speak, because I do have another monitor. You can't see it, but that's what you would do. You'd locate this window on the other monitor. It would be full screen and nice and big. So as you're shooting, you get the benefit of both. You get to see the whole grid, and you get to see the loop view. And even if you're not shooting tethered, you still can use a second display to show the images nice and big while you're working on them. All right, next up, let's go in, and we did that. This is one that I like, just a big time saver for me, and that's creating export templates. So you bring in images in the Lightroom, you edit them, then you want to export them. Well, if you're exporting them for the same reasons each time, to put on Instagram, to send to a client, whatever, then you're probably exporting them with the same settings each time. So rather than have to go in and create those settings each time, you can go into, for example, select the photo you want, hit export, set it up the way you want it. So I want these, not there, I want these out on the desktop, in a new folder. In that new folder is going to be called for Instagram or IG. And then I scroll down, I do all my settings. So image format is going to be JPEG. sRGB, quality is going to be good, because why would I want my quality not to look good on Instagram? Resize to the longest edge being no more than 1080 pixels, because that's what Instagram recommends. Don't do any sharpening, because I've already sharpened. And don't export all the metadata, just my copyright info. And show them to me in the Finder after you're done, because now when you export from the desktop, you can actually import or upload to Instagram on the desktop, finally, this week. Yay. So hitting export will do it that one time. But what I want to do is not do it that one time. I want to add this as a preset. So add a preset for IG. So now, every time I want to do that going forward, here, I'll cancel it. And let's say I select this photo, and this photo, and I want to export those for Instagram. File, export with preset for IG. There it is. And now I don't get a dialog box. I don't get anything. It just does it. So there are the three photos that are 1080 pixels wide long on the longest edge, 72 dpi, sRGB, JPEGs, ready to go to Instagram. They're all set and ready to go. So that way you can just have as many export presets as you want. One for print, one for delivering to the client, one for high res, one with watermarks, one without watermarks. How many ever presets you need, and then whenever you need to export them, you can export them quickly and easily. All right, we're running low on time, so let me work in a couple more really quickly here. So number one is that, remember, you have, and here, let me show this one, because I said I would show something in Lightroom as well. So here's one real quick for doing, actually, that's not the one I wanted to use. I wanted to use this one. One real quick for doing sharpening of skin, or not skin, I should say. So if I zoom in on this photo, and I sharpen the skin all the way, or sharpen the image all the way, the skin gets sharpened. Well, I don't want the skin to get sharpened. So we have this thing called, and you will not see it because by default it's twirled up. If you twirl it down, you have this thing called masking. And what sharpening allows me to do is turn up the sharpening, but then hold down my Option or Alt key and turn the masking up to where the skin is black, but everything else is white. So all the things I want to get sharp are white. All the things I don't want to get sharp are black. That way her eyes get sharpened, her jewelry, her lips, so forth and so on, her hair, all that gets sharpened, but the skin does not get overly sharpened. So that's a quick tip there. Next up, remember that you have Lightroom on various platforms. So you have Lightroom on the web, lightroom.adobe.com. Will bring up all your synced photos and all your albums, all your collections. It will let you see everything. It'll let you do edits. It'll let you do shares. It'll let you do exports. It'll let you do everything you want to do, including technology preview called, where is it here? Called proofing. So if you turn on the technology preview, you can set up proofing for a gallery. And once you enable proofing, that way your clients will be able to choose which pictures they want, and you'll get that feedback right back in the Lightroom. Okay, looks like I'm out of time and I don't want to get cut off here. So thanks everyone for watching. We'll do more of these tips, but stay tuned for Max next week, which is free. Stay tuned for today's masterclasses as well. And I'll see you in 2 weeks because we don't have masterclasses next Friday. 2 weeks, new things, lots of fun. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.